Where do I begin?
I was there.
You were, and that's kind of why I'd like to do it here. Um,
Awesome.
so, a little bit of background. My mom and my dad split when I was like two, and from that point on, I bounced from state to state between them. Until let's just say when I was an adolescent, going through puberty, I was living with my dad. My mom kept me in church, but my dad did not. And so my dad, he was a alcoholic and new age philosopher, etc. And
Free spirit.
free spirit, let's say. And by the time I was 14, I was diagnosed. By the time I was 14, I was diagnosed alcoholic, and I had done just about any drug you can imagine, short of sticking a needle in my vein. Uh,
Oh, these things your children don't tell you.
well, I never stuck a needle in my vein, so that's the line I wouldn't cross. But you name it, I I did it. So moving back and forth, I always wanted to. Well, I did have a goal in my life. I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 7 years old, and even in a drug induced state, I knew that it was not conducive toward that goal. And so I tried to clean my act up multiple times. And when I was 18, I had graduated from high school by the skin of my teeth. I was living on my own. I was out trying to buy drugs to sell them, and I wrecked my car.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I wrecked my car. I had no money, and I was living on the street, actually sleeping on a friend's couch, for a couple weeks in Northern California. My mom was living in the Cincinnati area at the time. Borrowed some money for a Greyhound bus, moved in with mom and my stepdad at the time, and my 12-year-old brother and my no, how old? Yeah, 12-year-old brother and like 9-month old sister. So I started from scratch. Didn't have any drug contacts in this new city. I got a job, and then I met a guy at work, and we started smoking marijuana, and the cravings for the other things started coming back, and I this cycle was starting up again, and I could tell it was on the horizon. I was about to, fall back into that lifestyle. One day I'm out driving around
In our new car.
in our new car, the Beretta, right?
Yeah.
This is not.
Red.
It's
Fire red.
1988 is the year. I'm 18 years old. It's a Friday night. It's like the last day of April, I think. Hmm. Yeah, I think it was the last. Well, I know the date.
The weather was warm.
It was nice out. So I'm driving along, and I see this group of kids walking around. And there's this cute girl, and I'm like, I loop back around. I find that group, and I'm kind of cruising along, and they come up to my car window, and they go, uh, "Are you saved? Go park your car, and we'll tell you about Jesus." And now, when I was young, as I had mentioned, mom had kept me in church, and so I had some background. But then when I had moved in with my dad, New Age philosophy, they change all the Christian terminology into other meanings. And so I'm like, all right, if that means, I didn't say this, but if that means I get to hang out with you guys and that hot girl that's your friend, all right. So we hung out that night. And they ranged in age. There was like 5 or 6 of them, and they range in age from like 14 up to 19. I was 18 at the time, and they didn't really say anything that I couldn't reinterpret in my own, worldview. But what was different was they wanted to hang out with me for no reason. Like they didn't want anything from me. I'm like, what? I don't. I was new to the area. I had one friend at work, and then there's this whole group of people, young people my age, and this cute girl, and they want to hang out with me. I thought I just struck gold. I'm like, this is incredible. So that night, came and went, and they invited me. That was a Friday night, and they invited me the following week to their youth group service, which is on a Wednesday. So I went to the youth group on Wednesday. One of the kids that I was with was up preaching or teaching. Like the youth pastor had given his leaders an opportunity to just share. And so he shared for like 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I just met that kid and he's up there talking in front of this crowd of kids and I could do that, right? That's all I'm thinking in my mind. Well, after that service, 2 of the kids that I met came up to me and asked me to get them high. They knew exactly what kind of person I was, and they're like, "Will you get us high?" And I was like, "I don't have any with me, but I'll pick you up tomorrow night on Thursday, and sure, no problem." So I did. Thursday night we went out, we did our thing, and one of them goes, "You could go to church and smoke this stuff and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Sure, why not?" What did I know? And so the following night, I was really looking forward to. This is 1 week after I'd met these kids. The following night, there was a youth party. Summer's coming. It's toward the end of the school year. It's big. At somebody's place. There's gonna be volleyball and barbecue and hanging out. And I was loving life. All of a sudden, I had this huge group of people to hang out with. And the icing on the cake was that cute girl that I was following the week before. I was going to pick her up and give her a ride to this place. I didn't know where it was, and I was just going to pick her up. She was going to say, "This is where it is." I thought, like I said, I struck gold. So about an hour before I'm supposed to pick her up, this is May 6th, 1988, about 6 p.m., she calls me, and she said, "Johnny and Dwayne," that's the two kids that I picked up and hung out with, "Johnny and Dwayne told everybody what you said, and now nobody wants you around." Click.
Ew.
And so I was in my room in that little apartment in Fort Mitchell, and I was in utter shock. I started crying.
Rejection.
I started crying. I started trembling. I'm snot crying. And the only way I can explain it, and this is what I've said every time I tell this story, is Jesus walked in the room. I didn't see anything with my eyes. I didn't hear anything with my ears. But there's no question the presence of the risen Christ was right there talking to me. And I heard 2 things. Now, I had just gone to their youth service Wednesday. That's the first time I'd been in the door of a church in probably 8 or 9 years. But the first thing I heard was, "You cannot serve 2 masters." Now, at the time, I had no idea that's in the Bible anywhere. But I realized in that moment that the life I had been living was for myself only. And if there is a Satan, that's exactly how he would want you to live, for yourself. I am my own master. You can't serve 2 masters. This God that's calling out to me is one master, and then I am the other master. You cannot serve 2 masters. The next thing I heard was, choose who you will serve. Again, I didn't know that. It was you taking me to church when I was younger that I attribute knowing that those verses go in and they're seeds and they germinate back there. And not only did I hear you can't serve 2 masters, but I was given the ultimatum: choose who you will serve. So that night, I got in my car. I went out and smoked my last joint and threw the roach out the window. That was my sacrifice. I went looking for the pastor, the youth pastor. Couldn't find him. I had no idea where this party was, this youth party. So I went to the mall, bought a Bible, opened it up, had no idea where to start. So it's just me and God that night, May 6th, 1988. The next morning, I went to the youth pastor's house, told him everything that was going on, and I was in the doors of the church every time they were open. Before work, I go to a 5 a.m. prayer meeting. I read the Bible through like 7 times in the first 7 years that I was a Christian. And that youth pastor said that he was praying, that he said, "God, save him or kill him." So there it is. That was 10 minutes. Gosh, what's the 60-second version? You know what? I'm going to practice my 60-second version and come back tomorrow.
Well, let me just say this in closing, that God hears a mother's prayers. And God answered this mother's prayers.
Amen.
Amen.
I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.